candidate under the party. He is also the founder of an investigative online platform, the Sahara Reporter, one who is not afraid to engage in a no-holds-barred conversation. But this morning, we'll do our best to keep it civil and stay to the issues. With that, I'd like to invite to join us a distinguished Omoyele Sowore. Good morning to you and welcome to our studios.
Thank you for having me.
Well, good morning once again.
Thank you.
First things first, let's dive right into the matter. The most recent happening in the country being in River State, where the president had declared a state of emergency, suspended the governor, the deputy governor, as well as all members of the House of Assembly. Now, we saw yesterday at the National Assembly where the members of the House of Representatives, as well as senators, had backed that state of emergency ruling. Well, from your perspective, how would you react to first the declaration of the state of emergency, secondly, the National Assembly throwing its weight behind the president?
Well, it has been stated by several persons, and some of them I've heard them on even your show, that the president has no right, constitutionally speaking, to remove a sitting governor over this kind of matter. But as you are aware, this is not anything strange, considering that they have been planning to take over River State from the time Wike completed his 8-year tenure. They put in, of course, Fubara, who was supposed to cover up for Wike. They both had atrocities they committed.
Well, allegedly.
Well, when you say allegedly, it is your own way of framing it.
Okay.
But the public information we have is that the EFCC even declared Fubara wanted at the point, stated the amount of money that went missing under his watch or through his conspiracy and collaboration with Wike. That is not an allegation that I made up. That was made up by an official federal government position. So all this was done just to sacrifice River State for Wike's comfort. You talked about the National Assembly. It would be wrong, and it would be an insult to rubber stamp to call this current National Assembly a rubber stamp assembly. We will be insulting rubber stamps, because rubber stamps sometimes have dates, they have consistency, they have purpose. These guys lack any of those things. I had predicted that they were going to do exactly that, which is to change whatever rules are in the books so that the president can get away with this murder of the democratic purpose that institutions like this are supposed to serve. So those has been my position. I knew this would happen. We had talked about it, and the issue is now before the public, and they have judged harshly everywhere. The NBA, commentators, groups have said that this was an anomaly.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to add again beyond the fact that it's important that Nigerians understand that they have been sandbagged by this guy.
Now, Mr. Sowore, the argument as to the legality of what the president had proclaimed, and also whether in declaring a state of emergency it was legal to have suspended these key political figures in the state, is one that will continue to be there. Some persons are for and a lot of persons are against it. However, a new sole administrator has been sworn in and has assumed office in River State. The federal government has asked for the withheld River State FAC allocations to be released to the sole administrator to carry on the duties of the suspended governor. Going forward, is there any hope for Governor Sasimenalai Fubara, or even his deputy, or the members of the House of Assembly that have been suspended? Would River State return to normalcy in the next 6 months, in your opinion?
Well, if River State is to restore itself, or anything you've mentioned is to be restored back in River State, it will be up to the people of River State to demand that the government or institution that they legitimately put in place. As I like to describe, I'm careful not to mischaracterize legitimacy of people in power in Nigeria, because most of them don't win elections. So I describe the governor, Sim Fubara, as either democratically elected or selected. The people of Rivers State have to determine that, in addition to, of course, the good people of Nigeria to say, enough is enough, this cannot stand.
In determining that, what modalities can they put in place? What proper channels of determination can be followed to ensure that the state is brought back to status quo?
I don't dictate that to them. They decide what they want to do. The rest of us, we have to support whatever they choose. I don't also want us to be using the word proper channels, because then you're trying to qualify that you are dictating to people how they want to respond to an anomaly of this magnitude. It's up to them to determine what channels they want to use.
Now, Mr. Sowore, let's look at the events that are unfolding and what history also presents us with as case studies to refer to. Many say that this might form a precedent on which future governments would take a cue from. Whilst we saw President Bola Ahmed Tinubu criticize the administrations of President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2004, when he suspended the governor of Plateau, Joshua Chibidare, and installed Chris Ali, we also saw him call Dr. Goodluck Jonathan mediocre, whilst he didn't suspend the executive and legislative arms in his decision in 2014 in Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa. I don't know your position on his decision to suspend Governor Fubara in line with what history had presented.
What could have been logical in this whole scenario would have been for us to start from the president himself, the so-called president. Because if the reason they gave for suspending Fubara is legitimate, if there are valid reasons, that is to say that there's insecurity in the state, that means on a larger Nigerian scale, the president should be under suspension too. There should have been a national emergency.
From who? Or by who?
By the Nigerian people, assuming, that's why in one of my tweets I did suggest that it's a wake-up call for Nigerians to declare a state of emergency on the Tinubu regime. I'm talking about the people now, because there are no institutions left in this country. I'm talking about the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary that we can look up to. There's no hope for any redress within those areas. And if you look at what happened in Rivers State, it was a conspiracy between the judicial arm first, because the Supreme Court came up and started this whole
made certain rulings which the governor had actually agreed to abide by.
So when they did that, because this was planned, this was properly, they took time to plan it. And then when they ruled to not allow Rivers State to get any allocation, pending the time they have democratic institutions in place, according to them, it then gave the room for the action that the executive took, and the legislative just came and, as I said, endorsed this shenanigans. So there's nobody who is going to be sitting on this side of the table today who will tell you that, oh, we can have a legal recourse, because this whole scenario, this was started by the judicial arm, and it was capitalized upon by the executive arm, and the guys in the legislative arm also took advantage of that. So that's why this is very, very hopeless.
Now, the AGF made questions on why Rivers State is so important, citing the fact that it was the national treasure. He also cited other states considered in that profile as saying that this might be an antecedent to follow. But the big questions are now on the other state of emergencies as declared by the president. One on food security. Many were calling that he attended to the issues in the southeast, northwest, where there's still issues of banditry and terrorism. Do you think that it's almost trivializing the state of emergency preferences of the federal government?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I've said before that if the reasons adduced for the state of emergency in Rivers is to be logically followed, then there should be a national state of emergency, and there should have been a suspension of the president, the vice president, and the National Assembly at this point, because in the larger Nigerian society or scenario, these things are present in bigger dimensions than you can think of compared to what you have in Rivers. So it is almost counterintuitive that we are discussing Rivers when the problem in Rivers exists in Yobe, they exist in Borno, they now exist in parts of Kaduna, if not the entire Kaduna state. It has spread almost all the way to Kogi State. We are hearing about, kidnappings and herdsmen ravaging Delta, Edo State, Enugu. So we have national emergency of bigger dimensions and whatever happened. But all of you know, regardless of how we paralyze ourselves with analysis on this matter, that this was done to favor, the guy who wants to be the godfather of Rivers State from here. That's Nyesom Wike, who's also the FCT minister.
Now, the way forward is the question now, because the AGF responded to this allegations thrown against the FCT minister when he was asked by State House correspondents, does the FCT minister still have a role to play in remedifying the situation in a 6 months period? And he says it doesn't behave on him. But much like a national leader like yourself, what will you do in this case?
The AGF is just blowing hot air. He's telling you what you want to hear. You must be reminded that there's no crime of national illegality that the Attorney Generals of the Federation are not involved in. I use the example of even June 12. The recommendation to annul June 12 was given by an AGF to the military, a civilian, Clement Akpambo, I think, who was the AGF at that time. He's late now. So all these Attorney Generals have always been part of high crimes when it comes to letting their principals be misled, if he wants to be misled, or conspiring with their principals to carry out or get involved in illegalities of these proportions.
Now, Mr. Sowore, while you were speaking earlier, you had cited that the 10th National Assembly is a rubber stamp. In fact, the Senate itself is a rubber stamp Senate.
I didn't say they're rubber. I said it will be an insult to call them rubber stamp because they're acting below,
these
the utility of rubber stamp.
These are your words, Mr. Sowore. However,
yes, in
the general debates as to what transpired at the floor of the Senate and also at the House of Representatives yesterday, the voice vote.
Yes,
a lot of people had actually sided with individuals like Senator Siraki Dixon and also members of the House of Representatives, talking about Honorable Obin Nagocha and Honorable Frederick Agbedi, who had challenged, that move made by both the Speaker of the House and also the Senate President. However, on another side, some persons are of the opinion that it might have just been a charade, almost like a stage act, so that Nigerians would not say that the President had just sent a gazette to the National Assembly and they unanimously agreed to it without any confrontation or pushback by any of the members of the House.
I think we're on the same page. It's a charade. It's complete charade. It was staged by them to give an impression that they actually did attend to the President's letter, whereas the decision had been taken before anything was even gazetted, and they were all part of it. Akpabio had met Wike the day before and then invited some senators to break fast with him. It was while they were at the fast breaking or iftar that this announcement was made. So they were all part of it. And some of them didn't deny it. They said, yes, we were consulted. And they just went ahead and then railroaded their colleagues. When you use the word colleagues here, there's some of them that you see that are acting drama are also part of it.
Well, Mr. Sowore,
they just play a good
consultations, lobbying are all part of such political
moves. But that doesn't mean that the rules that are meant and used for approving such positions will be thrown into the waste paper basket, which is what they did in this particular instance. Is that the rule says there must be 2/3 majority, I think. In the case of the House of Representatives, it's supposed to be 240 people, and the Senate, they're supposed to have almost 73 or so. They didn't even have that number, and they knew it.
The House of Reps had 24 yesterday, according to sources, while the Senate had 64. They had 243 present who signed the register.
No, yeah, it's not supposed to be those
out of 360.
No, it's not supposed to be those who signed. It's supposed to be votes.
More
I thought Erufai was in APC, not PDP.
No, APC, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Has left the APC and is looking to pull in big wigs there talks about this mega party or coalition. What's the position of the African Action Congress in this?
No, we're not part of the charade. All these guys that are forming mega parties up and down are the same people who have presented these coalitions several times now to scam the Nigerian people. Don't forget.
So you have not been approached?
No, nobody is going to approach me to be part of. They know me already.
2027 is still about 2 years ahead. Do you see a possibility of being approached by any of these key political figures and national opposition members, much like yourself, for the coalition?
We are going to do what we've always done, which is to create a coalition of the oppressed, not a coalition of desperados, or sometimes they even call themselves a coalition of the unwilling, because they just say, "Oh, we didn't want to do this." So, because don't forget that the PDP was a coalition in 1999.
Yeah.
The APC was a coalition in 2014, and eventually, and the people who did the coalition in 1999 are the ones who did the coalition in 2014, and eventually they are trying to form another coalition now. You all know the story. 16 years of wastage by PDP, last 8 years more of wastage by APC, destruction, decimation of your country, and everywhere is in ruins. And you expect me to go into coalition with an El-Rufai that buried 300 Shiites overnight in 2015 or 2016, or an Atiku who was vice president when Obasanjo did call it state of emergency. Remember, Atiku was his vice.
In Plateau State.
In Plateau State. Yes.
Well, Mr. Sowore, you have been...
So they used to do this together.
You have been very vocal, intensively vocal about some of the illegalities happening in successive regimes in the country. You have called out certain presidents, you have called out governors, you have been on the front burner of activism for the good of Nigerians in the country.
Yes.
You have vied for presidency. Ahead of 2027, are we still going to see you in the ring? And if yes, what do you think that the AAC is going to offer differently from what the PDP has done in the last 16 years and what the APC has done in about the last 10 years?
Your first question is if I'll be in the ring.
Yes.
And my answer has always been very straightforward. I am not the kind of person who ever left the ring. Even the reason why you're talking about the elections now more intensely is because the other guys you mentioned who are forming coalitions and gathering, they wait for election cycles before they act. We don't go anywhere, you know that. We're fighting for small things, small people, big things, big issues, just to make sure that we have a country of our own. So our focus has always been that liberation of our people. And it doesn't work according to Google Calendar, because it will just wake up, an alarm clock will just wake up. Oh, it's 2 years, Everybody just start pulling out, the gerrymanders, the people we call carpetbaggers. Everybody is just like, it's like Wild Wild West. And then when elections are over, they do realignments, they join government, some will not join, and then they will go and sleep. Atiku will go back to Dubai, everybody that didn't get a stab at the national cake will go and sleep. But we don't sleep. That's why the question is always strange to us. And are you going to be? We never left the ring. We're fighters, and we're fighting for a revolutionary Nigeria. We want another outcome that serves the people. And the AAC has always presented an alternative, but as you know, the alternative doesn't get amplified enough because we don't have money bags and we don't know how to lie. We don't have experienced murderers and killers. And
well, Mr. Sowore, we'll be guided with some of the comments at this point. But talking about the AAC, there's no harm in the revolutionary agenda of the party. The party also prides itself as one that does participatory democracy.
Yes.
But the challenge is now in the party structure, starting with the position of the party's chairperson, which happens to be in acting capacity. It almost feels as though at the grassroots, many have been hoping that since 2018, the AAC would at least clinch a seat in the legislative arm, or at least even via at the state level.
Well, the AAC participates in elections. But the question you should ask yourself is, are you still having elections or selections? And anybody who doesn't want to participate in selections cannot clinch a position because the elections are sold out in advance.
Well, in 2023, we saw a change from the trend. We saw parties much like ABGA, the NNPP, and even the Labour Party clinch gubernatorial seats in states.
Now, because I'm glad that you mentioned that, where are those opposition people in the National Assembly? Why are they not saying nay yesterday? Because these are people playing politics of convenience. We don't play politics of, that's why we're different.
That is why I had asked the question earlier.
And as a result, you also know, in these successive elections, the grades, the opportunities presented to Nigerians to have their votes counted has completely vanished or diminished. So you are asking us to participate in elections. We go and participate in elections, but you don't hold elections. For instance, there is no state electoral commission that can tell you that they conduct free and fair elections anymore. I mean, they never did, to be fair to them. No, I've never heard of a state electoral commission that even allow opposition to win. Even though as we speak now, AAC has some 2 councillorship, reps in the north, interestingly. But those are not things that we can bring in front of you to legitimize our suspicion and our doubts in free and fair elections, transparent and credible elections. So we can't be boasting that, we have...
It's not entirely out of place to state that Nigerians have for quite some time lost faith in the electoral process in the country.
Yes.
Due to issues of rigging and other sharp practices that take place during elections. However, that takes us back to my question earlier that you have not answered yet.
What's that question?
What is the AAC bringing differently
from
every other political party that you have accused countless times of certain irregularities or illegalities in the governance of the nation?
So I just said we have presented an alternative position. For instance, maybe I can then go straight to it, that we have a special position on all aspects of national life, and starting from security, power, infrastructure, how to fight corruption, how to expand our economic base, how to restructure the country. We have healthcare programs, we have education programs, we have a position on how to do revolutionary agriculture, not what they call slash and burn. We have a position on technology and tourism, which we refer to as Spicer Heat. There's no political party who has entirely covered all this in one document, and these documents are online, but people don't read them because they are not interested. They're interested in people who don't talk. I've participated in 2 general elections, and the media would never even invite us, those of us who want to talk, but they will be inviting those who don't want to talk.
Well, there's a deviation from that trend, and hence you're here this morning.
No, I'm not accusing you. I'm saying it's a general problem. They will then be inviting people who don't talk on a daily basis and be talking on their behalf. For instance, you cannot show me anywhere Tinubu went for a debate in 2022, but the media talked about him every second. Atiku, maybe he attended one interview that was done in his house. The media talked. The Arise TV even had a debate planned out. They, not suspiciously, they conspired against those of us who are younger candidates, separated us from the people they know we would disgrace if we go and do a debate. And then these people didn't even show up. But you talk about them. So the important thing is that there needs to be a paradigm shift as well. Is to look at what others have to offer and not keep saying that what you have to offer. We give you what we have to offer. I'm sitting in front of you today. I'm discussing this country. I'm discussing programs, policies. I'm discussing agenda. We are discussing things that are wrong, trying to find how to get to the right place. So, but I can guarantee you that Tinubu is never going to come to you.
I'm talking about...
It doesn't mean that it's not because you are not CNN. It's because it has nothing to tell you.
No, I'm talking about 2027 with your calls on the need for more debates and engagements to ascertain the level of candidates who vie for positions. there are also considerations for diaspora voting,
Yeah.
single candidacy. What's your take on this?
No, I've always been in support of diaspora voting because I lived abroad for 24 years and I understand 25. Well, if you take 5 years that I spent in Nigeria with my passport seized, will be 21 years. You look at the diaspora and diaspora elsewhere, they not only form a political base, they are part of the reason why the Nigerian economy hasn't collapsed, because of what comes in through money transfers and diaspora funding of projects at home, employment. They have so much influence and impact on society. I'm surprised that we are debating diaspora voting when countries like Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, or Senegal, they have diaspora voting. But for some reason, they decided to cut that off. The other issue about independent candidacy, I think, is also very important because there are a lot of people who are good, who can act as independent candidates and win elections, but the existing political parties and structures will not accommodate both their ideas and their ideologies. For instance, no matter how good somebody is, you cannot find your way to the top at the PDP or the APC except you are willing to do dirty things. And that is why we are discussing Rivers today. These are fallouts from political, irregularities that carried out in Nigeria. So by godfathers and godsons and their intermediaries. That's what Rivers State is all about. It has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with the State House of Assembly. It has nothing to do with any infraction. It has to do with somebody who said agreement is agreement.
Well, beyond...
And I must be given my own side of the agreement, even if everybody else is wiped out.
Beyond party politics, Bito had cited diaspora voting and also, single candidacy, which you said that could actually work in the country because we have brilliant minds who can take up such, There are
a lot of candidates that will show up within the Nigerian political scene today,
however,
if you allow for independent candidacy.
My major concern is as to the cost of running for political office in the country. It takes a lot. Beyond just acquiring the form. The campaign doesn't cost one kobo. It's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Lobbying, convincing people, going around the country, or going around certain local government areas in the case of perhaps a gubernatorial election and all of that. What is your take on how expensive elections have become now in the country that would never accommodate the idea of a single candidacy?
Independent candidacy is not about funding. It's about policy. There's no policy framework for it. If there was a policy framework for it, if somebody could independently campaign and around the country or for local government without being part of a political party, first and foremost, that will reduce the cost. Because most of the cost of elections or costs associated with election in Nigeria has to do with how to settle all the loafers who call themselves party leaders, chairman from the ward to the chairman of... In other places, parties have their own money, they support their own candidates, and they allow the candidates to raise their own funds and spend it independently. But here, the first cost that you associated with the election is how the candidate takes care of everybody's need within the party. Independent candidacy can take that out. That means you focus directly on your campaigns, you go to town hall meetings, debates, media, and you do real campaign. But generally, just so that I got directly into your question, is that elections are expensive here because elections here are not ideologically based. It's the highest bidder. So that is why you find out that the moment somebody wins an election, the banks will approach you to come and get a big loan that they know you may not be able to pay back. Everybody wants to invest in you to win. And when you win, you become beholden to this special interest. So, but there's a way that can happen if you have ideologically minded campaigning candidates and that discuss issues serious issues, and people are chosen based on their ability to distill and profile solutions as opposed to how many people they can kill during elections.
Well, it's actually a fine place to leave the conversation. I wish we had more time to delve into other matters, but we must thank you so much. It's been a very deliberative session with you here, Mr. Omoyele Sowore.
It's a pleasure having me around here and talking to you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Well,